Welcome to episode number 6, I believe, of Stay Out of the Kitchen. I'm Doug Heater. I'll be joined momentarily by Mike Fouts, and we're enjoying doing this. So we've got there's some sports involved today, but this is a little bit more story time tonight. We've got a lot of stories to catch up with. Mike, before I start with our first topic, say hello to everybody and how excited you are to once again be here doing this with me.
Hey, everyone. I am excited to be here with our listener.
I don't want to give the number, Mike. I know you've looked. It's a record number for our last episode, but that's not saying much, but I love it. Keep watching, keep spreading the word, keep letting people know, because I'm telling you, we are having a blast. We have so much content that I know we're not going to get to all of it. So what I believe is the time sensitive stuff is the stuff I want to get to. So it, of course, starts with our discussion about piss jugs. Now, this will transition into the piss bucket and then a sad story that we have for you from Green Bay. An iconic vehicle apparently is retired. But first of all, last week I kind of told the story a little bit about the piss jug. So I'm starting a new trial and a new clinical trial for my cancer. And this is the piss jug that they give me. This is last week at Sloan. Now this one has absolutely no instructions on it. 3,000 milliliters, number one. And last week, or when I did this at Penn, I needed 2 of these bad boys, which of course we had a good kick out of, but I need 2 of them because obviously I piss a lot in a day. I filled this up to about here in the first 3 hours, stopped. It's supposed to be a 24-hour collect. And when I turned it in, they're like, you kind of left some time off. I'm like, well, I need 2 of these. So they sent me one, no instructions on it whatsoever. So the good news is I'm now letting people know that I can piss in 24 hours, approximately a gallon and a half, but none of it goes over the fence. So, starting with that, it nicely trends into, we tease you with the piss bucket story of our friend Matt Joe. We were tailgating out in Green Bay and how he had this state-of-the-art piss bucket for us to use, and I'll let you tell the story. By the way, folks, this wasn't on me. This is take number 2. Zoom just quit on us, so hopefully we get all the way through this because we got about 4 minutes in, so we're back doing it again. Good rehearsal, but Mike, take it away.
So we went to Green Bay in December, and it's cold as a bastard. And we had gone to the SEC championship and then flew up to Green Bay to see a 4:00 game. And so my buddy Matt Joe, we go to dinner the night before. He creates the world's greatest invention that's going to revolutionize tailgating. And he calls it the piss bucket. So we can't wait to tailgate the next day. So we go to his parking spot. It's outside of Lambeau Field. And the whole principle is it takes too much effort. It's too cold, too long to go stand in line at the Porta-John. So we have this piss bucket in the back floorboard of his Chevy Suburban. And it's basically just a Home Depot spackle bucket with ice in it. And the idea is you just hop in the Suburban where it's warm and you just take a piss right in a piss bucket.
Now, the funny thing about this is that he went on and on the night before. And the both of us expected, I don't know what we expected, but we expected something quite elaborate, not just a bucket filled with ice. Now, we truly believe the reason that the ice was in it is to kill the smell. It was filled to the top, so it took away some of the volume. None of us used it, by the way, except for one of the guys who went with us, his wife. Now, there was no seat on it, so in between the seats and the back seat and the front seat, she kind of had to squat down and use it. We, of course, decided rocking said Suburban would be a good idea while she was using it. She's the only one that used it, but that was classic. It's part of the classic ambiance you have when you tailgate at Green Bay, which we did 2 years in a row, by the way.
That's right, we did. And the first year was beautiful. It was in October. It was mild. The second year, I was literally dressed looking like I was hunting polar bear in the Arctic Circle.
We brought, now Mike is living in Florida and I'm living here in Easton, and you know, it's not obviously as cold. He's got no warm clothes. Now this is the last time we ever went to a cold weather game. We decided that was it. We're not doing it anymore. It was a Monday nighter against the Ravens, and It was 15 degrees. We brought gear, and they're laughing at us. The guys out there are laughing at us like, you don't have enough. Like, I don't own enough. I remember we borrowed blaze orange hunting gear, and it still didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter what. Now, you have, if it works, we'd like to put that picture up with you and Will Ferrell dressed in your hunting gear to show everybody how close this guy truly looked like Will Ferrell, because we spent 2 years tailgating with him.
Well, we definitely will. I dug out the picture of me, and this leads to later on, of raising the flag. Mm-hmm. Not the trophy, by the way. Raising the trophy is completely different. Raising the
trophy, you do that when you win a national championship at Syracuse.
That's right. Right. But I raised the flag with Bart in the Packer car, and I'm in full gear. Yes. I can barely move to raise the flag.
All right, so Mike raised the flag. So we found out this week that December 12th of 2021. Now, his name is Bart Boyden, and we were excited. This was legitimate because Matt Joe was telling us not only was this the year that we met Ray Nitschke's daughter, but Bart's going to have this Packers car, which we figured, all right, it's going to be dressed up nicely. Now, we're going to try to put the picture of this up because they're talking about two sad days in Packer history when Leroy Butler was injured in 2001. And in this year, Bart's car apparently suffered what they're referring to suffered a structural integrity injury in her 32nd season. Now, this is a Cadillac dolled up, but the tradition before the game is to raise the Packer flag. And Mike actually got to do it in his Colts gear that year. And that was a very special moment for you. I mean, that's probably like singing the national anthem at a World Series game, I think. It's about the same, I think.
It really is. That thing's a legend in Green Bay, right? Everybody knows Bart, and they know the Packer car. And I texted with Matt Joe, by the way, earlier this week to understand what structural integrity issues mean. And it's the trailing arm that broke or rusted out.
I figured the floorboard dropped out in it. Because it's got to be. It does now. It's not. It's a Cadillac. It doesn't say what year, but it's old. I'm assuming 70s, right?
Gotta be right.
At least
this huge, giant old Cadillac.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, it's old. It was old when we were there, and that was 2009. It's in great shape. It's tremendous. Now, a friend of mine is a huge Packers fan. We're over there once in Christmas time, and he got like a Packer picture book his wife got for him, and I'm leafing through it, and sure as shit, Bart's car is in there. And when I told him I knew the guy, and it's kind of who you'd expect when you see him get out of the car, like, he's close to normal. He's not really goofy, but it's about what you'd expect. But he was extremely impressed with me that we got that, and I told him the story about you getting a chance to raise the flag. That was we parked and we tailgated right next to him. That brings in a lot of people. That was kind of cool. So sad day. It looks like that. Well, you could probably fix that.
I don't think it's fixable.
Oh.
Matt Joe texted with Bart, and the whole undercarriage is rusted out.
Okay.
Because Green Bay winters are rough, so I don't think it's salvageable.
Now, when you read, I don't know if you read this, but he was making a pregame stop to get supplies. He was going to that Piggly Wiggly. Right?
That's right.
He was going to that Piggly Wiggly to load up on beer. They have Piggly Wigglies out there, and we loaded up. That was also, we brought the beer for that first year, which was a tremendous amount, but we stopped at the Piggly Wiggly. Here's some more on that. Mike and I stayed at a hotel if you've been to Green Bay, the stadium view is the bar, and it's on the stadium side. Across the street from the stadium is a bunch of what I'll refer to as Jersey Shore homes that you can rent out, which is a tremendous experience for those that ever get a chance. But we got beer at Piggly Wiggly, loaded it up in a giant, like a fisherman's igloo with the ice from our hotel. And then two of us carried it about 2 blocks down the road into our parking spot, waiting for Bart and waiting for Matt Joe to show up, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, across the length of the stadium, through the parking lot. We carried that. And we saw a guy with a roaster. Remember, he had the pig on there. He had a full pig that he was roasting on a pig.
Now, nothing odd happened when we were putting ice in that cooler, did it? If I remember, am I remembering this correctly? You didn't take something out or you didn't do anything like that?
No.
Are you sure?
No. I'm positive.
All right, because it was daylight. That trip was epic. That stadium view was awesome. We went there. That's where we went and hung out. I think Nitschke's daughter for a while, right?
Yes.
Because it was a late game. Well, 3 o'clock Central Time, and then stayed out. That was an awesome, awesome trip. So that's our piss bucket story that goes with Bart's car, which I saw was some sad news. So we were able to transition into. So it would be nice if Bart stated that he would. The only way that would make this okay is that the Packers win the Super Bowl. That would take the pain away. So, yeah, Bart Boyden. That's his Twitter handle. If I believe, you can look it up, and you could Google Packers car, and it'll come up. That was all the year that we went and we all worshipped at the diner of Green Bay Packer football. Correct?
Yeah, we did. That was. That's a story in and of itself.
Yes, that's for another time.
Okay,
but that was
we'll
like
leave that for another time.
People were people a lot of times will come from church to the diner. Actually, that was the Sunday before the Monday night game because that was the second year we rode in the back of that Pinto. At least I did.
Yeah.
And the people were dressed up in their Packer sweaters like they were coming from church, but they were probably worshiping at the house of Vince Lombardi and then went to the diner to get some food. This one I'm going to kind of throw you for a loop before I get into. I want to talk Sears catalog because it's Christmas time. But did you know that 1974 was the Sea of Hands game? I did see that. Now, so I'm 7 years old. I remember this game vividly. I remember where I was. I was at my Uncle Steve's house watching this game. And I remember that being one of the greatest playoff games, back and forth. And this was the one where Stabler just throws that prayer up and it goes through a bunch. And I think Cliff Branch ended up catching it so it was 1974 yesterday. Those games were epic, epic playoff games.
Yes, they were. That is so between that, the Immaculate Reception, the Holy Roller game, right? Those games were fantastic.
Now, I want to talk about the state of the NFL, but we'll probably wait till next week on that one. But is there games is there iconic? I just don't, in the last 5 or 6 years, there just doesn't seem, I know what it is. There's just not as many great players. I mean, think of the players that were on those. I mean, that Raider team was loaded with Hall of Famers. The Dolphins did. I mean, those were unbelievable. These playoff games now are just, most of them are remembered for failure. Tony Romo dropping the snap, Calvin Johnson getting screwed. Right? I mean, it's the Super Bowl where the Rams got said that. I'll have to bleep that out. The Rams got screwed on that call.
Hey, how about when Gary Anderson missed that field goal after a 15-1 season?
There you go. Hasn't missed an extra point or a field goal ever. 1998, I knew it was going to happen. Never been done before by a kicker, and he missed what would have clinched it and said, that's because the Anvil, who was watching the game with me, says, Doug, I can't believe I'm sitting here with you, and the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl because they were lining up to go up by 10, and he missed it. But yeah, you're right. It's always iconic failures. Yeah. I mean, there's been some great catches, the Santonio Holmes catching the Super Bowl, stuff like that. But these playoff games, it's like every year they were epic. They were classic.
You know what I attribute that to, Doug? I attribute that to expansion.
Yeah.
And dilution. Right. You used to have fewer teams. And so hence you had a propensity to have great players built on teams. And now you have 32 teams. And it's a roster. It's not a bunch of great players. It's, do you have a great quarterback?
Yeah.
And one other player.
That's it. You need, yes. And believe me, I have a bunch. Next time I want to, my take on the NFL, I did it a little bit the one week that you weren't with me, but I just wanted to talk about the state of it and what I believe is the way an NFL series works, an NFL first, second, third down series works. But I want to get to the Sears catalog, because that, of course, was this time. Now, I know you grew up in the same era, sort of, that I did with the Sears catalog. And for kids that, or even middle-aged people that don't, or not middle-aged, but 30s or so, that don't kind of know what we're talking about, the older people that are friends with us will understand this. I mean, you had if I remember this right, you had 2 pages in the Sears catalog of football gear. You had the two-tone sweatshirt, which was mainly white with your logo on it, said the team, and then the sleeves were usually the secondary color. Like the Vikings were the gold, and it was a white, and that was it. You had all the teams, and then you had another page or the same page of the teams that were in the league, and it was a number that they picked. And that's where my Tommy Kramer, it was Tommy Kramer, number 9, said Vikings on it. If you were a Colts, right, it was probably Burt Jones, probably Kenny Stabler, Terry Bradshaw, but it was who, and that was it. That was it. And I remember getting that catalog in the fall and looking at that over and over. I used to cut the little picture, the sweatshirts out and like do a football game with them. I mean, it was unreal.
Yeah. I remember, the Cowboys, it was white, said Cowboys, and it had 33 because that was Tony Dorsett. And then the Chargers was 14 because of Dan Fouts. And the other page that I used to look at for hours was the helmets.
Yes.
Right, the helmet. They were the 2-bar with the gray. They were all gray. And, oh, man, the helmets were the best.
Well, you got the little kid the set, right, with the pants and shoulder pads and helmet. That's where I got my Johnny Unitas shirt.
Good one.
That's what it was. Oh, those were great. Those were good. Something just slipped out of my mind that I wanted to talk about with that, but I forget now what it was. Did you have pajamas? Did you have football pajamas?
I did, yeah. I had the ones with, they had like all the logos on them, right? Like every logo team, it was just covered in the logos.
So I had the Viking pajamas. They were all white, and it just was them. And then I have a picture. Yeah. My mom has it somewhere. If I could find this and dig this up, it's me standing on my bed with my little Viking helmet under my arm next to my Viking pennant, which I think, do I still have that back there? No, I don't think I have it back there. Because my pennant wall is on that side. I don't think that's back there. That was great. Those things were awesome. The pennants you had on the wall, the posters you'd cut out and stick on there, but I had Viking pajamas. They were all tore up. That I don't think they made it. The Kramer jersey made it, but the pajamas did not.
I remember the crowning jewel for me was shoulder pads.
Yeah. Right? Oh.
And I would put like those jerseys or a T-shirt over them, and it didn't fit for shit.
Yes.
Really. But I loved having the shoulder pads.
Oh yeah, any gear like that, and they were about. When we all had the toy helmets. I had a Jet helmet. It was not a Jets helmet, but we called it a Jet helmet. We got it at a garage sale. It was green. It was all white, and it had just a green stripe over it and a face mask, which I actually used to ride on the snowmobile at the Anvil, which was not anywhere near safe. But do you remember when we went to the Packers Hall of Fame? Those helmets they wore in the 60s were pretty much the exact same thing. Am I right? I mean, they were plastic that just squeezed over their head.
It was pretty much game equipment that you bought out of the Sears catalog.
Yeah, really. That's what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something. When you watch those old films, those helmets, they might have had a little bit more padding in them, but pretty much that was it. It was hard plastic, and that was the same as the one you get out of a Sears catalog.
It had foam right here.
Yeah.
You remember, it had foam here, and then like around the head it had foam. And that was it. The foam was like that thick. That was it.
Mike has got, he'll have to show this to us next week. Mike has got one of my favorite, I would love to have this artifact, the Bengals helmet that has Bengals on the side. The word Bengals, the old school. I love that. You got that on eBay, right?
I did. I bought it on eBay for like $10. All
right. You got to show that next week.
All
right. Next topic is, and I kind of texted with you during these bowl games, is about fans wanting the NCAA. By the way, there's too many teams in NFL playoffs. The Vikings, who are hideous, are in right now. So for people that want to expand the college playoffs, from now on, when they say that, I'm going to say I have 6 letters for you. UAB, BYU. Just watch that game and tell me that a team BYU who was 13th, I realize they weren't officially in if you expand to 12, but that's a team that would have been on the cusp of making the playoffs and loses to UAB, who just started football back up again about 5 years ago, was 8-4. That's the kind of team we want in at 13. You know who's the 12 seed right now? The 12 seed is Pitt. That's who they would play Notre Dame. Do you really want expansion to 12? Because guess what? There's a couple of these matchups. I said to you, Ohio State plays Utah. That would be a 6-11 matchup. They're playing in the Rose Bowl. To me, playing in the Rose Bowl brings more pomp and circumstance and atmosphere than them playing on what would have been last Saturday, probably at Ohio State. I think this is a big mistake to have that many teams.
I do too. I've always been okay if there were 6 and the top 2 had a bye. Now, this year has been weird, right? Because nobody's really been dominant and it's been an odd year. But I don't think when you get past 6, they can compete with the top 4 or 5.
Agreed. So if you had top 6, you'd have number 5 Notre Dame, number 6 Ohio State. I'm fine with that. They're not going to win it. Me too. But Notre Dame can prove that, okay, they slipped up. They play Cincinnati. They slip up, and Ohio State lost that game to Michigan and knocked them out. So here's the matchups, just to put in perspective. The only one to me, there's 2. So if this Bama, Cincinnati, Michigan, and Georgia would have a bye. Ole Miss would play Oklahoma State in the 8-9. That's not bad. Okay, that's not bad. But that's an 8-9 matchup. They're always good. The 5-12 is Notre Dame against Pitt. Now the question there is, does Kenny Pickett play or not? Ohio State and Utah, which are playing. So we get to see them in the Rose Bowl, which I think is tremendous on New Year's Day. Baylor plays Michigan State. Again, Michigan State's running back Kenny Walker's out. And then Michigan has a bye. I don't think any of those teams have a chance to win the next round, except maybe Notre Dame could upend Cincy. But the question is, would the players that are sitting play? Because and where were you? You'd have to play this. By the way, this year, you'd either have to play this on Thursday, the 23rd, all the games in round 2. So that's 4 games, or you got to play Christmas Day because that's your Saturday. Can't play against the NFL. Can't play Monday. Yeah. And then you can play on January 1. So that's the matchups. We're seeing one of them, and I think it's better in the Rose Bowl than in a matchup like that, in a scenario like that.
You brought up an interesting point, and I think it would be fascinating to see if you're a draft-eligible guy and you're going to be a first-rounder, and you play for Oklahoma State or Ole Miss, would you play?
That's
right. Or would you wait?
Yeah,
because you probably don't have a chance to win a national championship.
Right.
So, are you going to risk it, or are you just going to go wait? I'm going to sit here for the draft. I'm not going to improve my draft slot, right? If I'm going to be a first rounder and I'm not top 10, I'm not going to move into the top 10 just based on a bowl game.
Yep. Because Ole Miss Oklahoma State game, which again would be exciting, they play Alabama. That's the winner, plays Alabama. Yeah. And I think Alabama would be double-digit favorite, potentially a 20-point favorite against either one of those. They already beat Ole Miss, so that would be exciting. But Oklahoma State, I don't think could stay with them and score. That's I don't think so. I got one. I don't know if you saw this, but first of all, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl was played on the blue turf, which I think is hideous. But the Wyoming won, and their head coach got. Did you see this post game? They dumped a bucket of French fries on him.
I saw that.
Yes.
By the way, I would like to point out the blue turf is rivaled only in atrocity by Coastal Carolina's aqua green turf. Yeah. That's horrid as well.
Eastern Michigan plays on green. Eastern Washington plays on black, which is awful. To me, it should be a rule. Yeah. That BYU turf, and when they play with the blue, you can't see them. It's like watching Terminator and trying to see the creature go through the woods. He blends in with everything. I got to tell you a story that leads me to, Brandon Moss. He played here at the Pigs, and he played with the A's and the Royals. So I have video of this that I'm going to find for another time. It was the end. It was 2011. The Pigs won the semifinals and played in the Governor's Cup championship. But Moss, who later told me, in fact, 2 years ago during COVID, that he lit it up in the postseason because he was pissed that the Phillies didn't promote him in September to call him up. They should have. They screwed him, but that's another. So they win. He has 3 RBIs in the game, hits the game-winning base hit on a walk-off. So they bring him down into the dugout, and I'm interviewing him. This year was very big on dumping the Powerade on the players and pieing them. In fact, one of the guys, Swomy, wanted to dress up like Diggity, come around the corner, because our camera shot, you could see the guys come around the corner, but they wouldn't let him do it because they were afraid the mascot outfit would get messed up. So they dump, and Josh Barfield was the player, quietest guy in the team, dumps a whole bucket of red Powerade on. Now, it got me too. Now, while that was hilarious, it is my top moment, I'm wearing khaki pants. The red presses through, and I'm wearing Scooby Doo underwear, which is appropriate with the shirt. And the bat boy, who's like 14 years old, Griffin, goes, "Oh, you got Scooby Doo underwear on." Thankfully, the camera shot didn't get it. That's my memory of getting something dumped on me. So it wasn't a French fry bucket, but it was red Powerade.
He didn't swing his dick around in your face, did he?
No, shockingly, he didn't. That's left to you doing stuff like that, which is what I thought you did in Indianapolis when I was filling ice up in the bucket. I could have sworn it was right there.
Nope.
Are you okay?
Nope, that was not it either.
We got a few more minutes. How's that chili working out for you?
So far, so good. Yeah, it's not like Corvallis in here.
So Mike has eaten buffalo chicken dip last week and a bowl of chili before the show, and has let me know that it may not go well while he's doing it. Thankfully, it hasn't. So here's Corvallis, who we've referenced a few times before. And there's more to this. I want to get into the time zone change fucking me up another time. But we're driving from Portland, where we flew into, right? It was the year that Oregon had Mariota and played Stanford. And had they won the game, they would have played in a national championship that year instead of Alabama and LSU. Notre Dame had beaten Kansas State on the same day. But actually, that was the Notre Dame Alabama championship game. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So we flew into Portland, got ripped Friday night. We're driving to Oregon the next day, and he decides we're driving through Corvallis, which is where Oregon State is. And there's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Here's my memory of Corvallis. Him ripping one in the car. He's driving. It was horrendous. And then locking the windows so I couldn't roll the windows down for fresh air. That's exactly how that story went.
Except for the locking the windows part. I don't think the windows locked.
Yes, they did.
But that was rough.
It was really rough.
Bad.
It was
we
really
drank
rough.
Like bastards at a B-Dubs the night before.
Oh yeah, we had food and drank like lunatics the first night, and then drove. Well, plus we stopped at Wendy's in the morning, right, to get something. We were the first people in the place to get something to eat. So that's a quality move there, to eat and drink like lunatics the night before. So he ripped one in the car. So every time I think of Corvallis now, or ever going through it, it stinks. Corvallis stinks because somebody shit themselves and then locked the windows on the car.
So our bodies were on East Coast time. So we rolled into a Wendy's at like 9:05 in the morning Pacific time. And then we head out, and you got pissed off because you thought we were going to miss the game. Yeah, I don't. That's another time, because I got to tell that again. I have an issue with the time adjustment, because I'm trying to still stay like on East Coast time for game starting, because it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Game day was over. That's the year the duck head blew off the guy's head when he jumped out of the plane and landed in a farmer's field. But I knew it was 5 o'clock local time, but then I turned it into 5 o'clock Eastern time. That's when the game we were gonna kick off. And then I'm like, how the hell are we gonna get there late? Because now we got to be there. We're an hour away. It's already 9, but it was noon in my mind. So I'm like, so I basically merged the two time things, where it's 5 o'clock local kick, but it's really noontime here. How are we gonna miss getting there? And then that was it. That's basically it. It's a little bit more to that, but. Oh, I got one more. I got to fit one more in. We're up against it. I got to tell you this story. I'm gonna not say his name, but I can't. And I don't think I warned you about this one, about the Grinch. Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm here. So a guy is telling me I wore a Grinch sweatshirt to work for our Christmas little episode. We do drop-ins about some of our favorite Christmas moments. It's actually Angela's sweatshirt, and he was telling me how he was talking to his grandkids and telling them that he doesn't like the Grinch because Grinch is a bad guy. And one of them says, you do realize that he turns good at the end. That's when his heart grew 3 sizes that day. He claims to not have known that. He didn't know that. And when he watched it with them, he's like, oh, you're right. He turns good. I like the Grinch now. How is it possible? How is that possible? to all
That's the
those
whole
years
point of the
not have
story.
caught one of the episodes of The Grinch. I don't wonder if he was pulling my leg or not. I don't think he was. That's awful.
That's terrible. That's the whole point of the story. Is
Correct.
That he turns good.
Yes.
Right? That's the point.
Could you? That's yeah.
That's something.
I had to get that off my chest. That was whew. All right. I want to talk tripping balls next week. For people that saw that video, I want to talk tripping balls. We got to revisit burning the chair because that's pretty good stuff. See if there's anything else. I want to talk about the Michigan offensive line, and we want to talk about the state. Oh, and I also want to use that quote from Eli Drinkowitz, saving that for another time. And the state of the NFL, which from what I understand, the Viking game was god awful bad. And in the state of the NFL, while it's interesting that almost everybody's alive, the quality is garbage, and I don't think I'm wrong on that.
And I want to talk about analytics in the NFL, Doug.
Okay.
That roast my balls. So we'll talk about that on the next
Hey, there's
episode.
another thing that roasts my balls. All right. Thanks once again. Spread the word as much as you can. Hope you enjoyed it. This was a good, solid episode. We talked about piss buckets and all that. It's another episode of Stay Out of the Kitchen. Be sure to join us again. We're going to be back doing this next week. Hope everybody has a good Christmas. Mike, Merry Christmas to you. Hope you have a good Christmas. Enjoy the football games this weekend, and we will see you next time. Thank you once again for watching Stay Out of the Kitchen.